Still on the search of that one true love? On the limbo in this crazy world of dating, marriage, relationships? Well, listen to the Golden State Media Concepts Relationship Podcast, your one-stop podcast for everything about relationships.
Thank you for tuning into the GSMC Relationship Podcast, brought to you by the GSMC Podcast Network. I am your host, Gloriann. Welcome. I hope that everybody's staying safe. In today's episode, I'll be talking about friendship, adulthood friendships versus the childhood friendships. When we're little, we have the people that we call friends, but when we get older, we start calling them my childhood friend or my best friend from high school, my best friend from kindergarten. We have people that were there in our lives and have made an impact. Some childhood friends change and you don't have things in common anymore. Others stay, and then you have your adult friends. The ones that you have made in college or even in your job. When you start getting older, your interests change. Obviously, you're not going to watch cartoons or play with dolls anymore. You start to hang out, to go to the movies, go to the beach, go to your friend's house, whatever type of things. And people that have the same interests as you will invite you to do these things, or you will invite them to do this. Meanwhile, I'm getting older. I see that my friends are getting either engaged, married, having kids, and I'm like, whoa, put a pause on this, because I'm not ready. Every time I'm in my social media, there's another classmate that is either getting married or is pregnant. I honestly don't feel that. Even though I'm in my late 20s, I don't feel that I need to get married or have kids, but there are other people that are doing it. Anyways, I don't really see myself doing this anytime soon either, but who knows? Everything changed. Things happen for a reason. That's not the point. The point is, meanwhile, your friends start to create another life or be mature, in other words. You either get stuck or you feel the pressure of moving on as well. Friendships can be hard because of the fact that many of us just have to move on. And let's face it, we're not 16 anymore. We're not 12. We need to mature and be responsible and be more responsible, and even have our priorities obviously are going to change. All of us at one point will do our things and separate a little from our friends. We meet new friends, we change our ways, our interests, our hobbies, etc. We as human beings, we change every 10 years, I think it is. So of course, we're gonna grow apart from our friends at one point. It's hard to keep communication with our friends and to see each other because of work, kids, events, etc. Again, I'm in my late 20s and I can say that I have the same group of friends over a decade. We are all from the same high school and we know each other since we were little. Of course, when I went to college, there we grew apart a little bit because I was in a different college and they were all in the same one. So they had time to hang out, do things together. Meanwhile, obviously they invited me. I couldn't go because of I was studying something else different as them. But once I transferred to their college because of other reasons, it wasn't really working in my other for other reasons, not for them, obviously. We reconnected again. Of course, I met new people and I hang out with them. But when I moved to Florida, I can say that now that I'm in Florida and my friends are in Puerto Rico, it's been difficult to keep in touch with them because some are doing their masters or in a relationship, they are moving in with their partners or, working a lot. And we are all trying to find our path and our ways, even though we are on our late 20s. My friends from high school and we could try to keep in touch and see each other once in a while, especially when I go to Puerto Rico. It's like, hey, everybody calls each other. It's like, hey, Gloriann's coming. Let's do something, like clear your schedule. Or, hey, I say to them in the group chat, like, hey, this weekend I'm going. Can you guys see each other? What can we do? How can we hang out? Anyways, to the point again. We do see each other once in a while, but it's complicated because, again, we all have different schedules. And planning things, it's a little bit hard as well because when I'm free, they are not free. So it's not like when we were in high school that we had the exact same classes and we got out at the same time. And it's like, oh, okay, hey, you want to hang out at 5? I'll do the homework and we'll see each other. Or, hey, let's hang out. Let's go to the movie at 7. Like, just let's do our homework first. And then, anyways. One friendship of the friendships that I've had for a decade, one of them is my best friend from high school. She and I, she was always in the same school. My parents put me in the school and she was my first friend. She was the friend that the teacher assigned to show me around the school. So that's when we became friends. Because again, we were basically the teacher basically put us together, and she had her friends as well. So I became part of the group. I can say that meanwhile this was in 6th grade. We met each other in 6th grade. When we started high school, I can say that we became closer and closer because our interests were the same. I was always in her house. She was always helping me in homework because even though I had good grades, I needed help in certain things, in certain classes. So she helped me a lot. And she played volleyball. She was an athlete and I liked doing sports, but it wasn't something that I was in a team in. So she was always in the school volleyball team and I was just helping and cheering her on in the bleachers. And of course, when I ran when I ran, she was always there for me as well. I can say that senior year, we were really close. And once we went to college, we separated a little. We still kept in touch. She every time like she was invited to a party, she was like, hey, Gloriann, do you want to go to this? Hey, Gloriann, we haven't seen each other in a couple of months. Let's do this, or the other way around. Of course, what I was studying at the beginning in my freshman year, like in my 3 years of college, I really didn't have time for anything. I was trying to get my GPA up and I was obviously in a different college as her. So it was a little bit difficult to see each other or have the same schedule. Then I have this other friend that we've been friends again since ever since I got into the school. She was friends with my best friend, like they were best friends. And once I came into the group, this friend, she thought that I was separating her. And the thing is, unfortunately, I had more things in common with my best friend than with this friend. And she thought that I stole her best friend, basically. When we were in high school, like when we were in senior year, her and I, we started to have the same interests. So we were all hanging out. And I remember one time she told me like, oh, I hated you in one moment because I felt that you were stealing my best friend. But now that I'm older, I see that it's just you guys have more interests together. You have more things alike than her and I did. Now that we're in our late 20s, like she's one of my best friends, like the closest friend that I have. She has been there through thick and thin. She's always been there for me, even though she hated me in elementary school. When we were in high school, she was really good to me, especially when my parents were getting divorced. I was always in her house as well, and her parents are like second parents to me. I call them, mama and papa, and they are the sweetest persons ever. And every time I go to Puerto Rico, if it's even like 10 minutes, I always say hi to them and hey, and try to be there. They have done so much for me when I was little, or when I was a little bit younger, that of course those types of things you never forget, and you have to be really grateful for the people that you have around, especially when they're helping you in really bad times. And I can say this friend, that's why she's my best friend now. And her and I, even though we're in different paths, I can say that we still make time for each other, like to call each other or text each other. And right now it's funny because her and I, we tend to see TV shows together, and then we talk about it. So we have like things to talk about as well when we talk, because that's how her and I are. Of course, with my high school best friend, unfortunately, I haven't lost touch with her because I still talk to her a couple of times. And every time I'm in Puerto Rico, I always call her and say, hey, I'm here. When can we meet? Or at what time can we see each other? When can we do something? And even though if she has plans with other people, she will invite me. Or if she has something for work, she will invite me or something, or say like, hey, not today, but tomorrow. That's why I'm referring to her as my high school best friend, because that's what she is now. Even though that when we see each other, my high school best friend and I, every time we see each other, it's like we haven't lost touch. We always are talking, we talk about different things. We still have that trust there. And even though in social media, when she puts something about her accomplishments, it's like I always text her or call her like, hey, what's up? Like, congrats, tell me everything. It's really, I always try to have my friends, the friends that really were there for me in really bad times, I have them really close to my heart and really close to me. I have my best friend, my current best friend, one of them, because I have two guys best friends, and I can say I have two girls best friends and two guys best friends. One of them, we were in class together. We were in the same high school together. She was in the other classroom and I was in the other classroom, and we knew each other and we talked, but like small talk, because she was one of the popular girls and I wasn't that popular. I was really sociable. I talked to everybody and I had a couple of acquaintances, but with her, she always had like a little bit of trust in me. And like if something happened in her family or something, like she was like, hey, can we talk for a little while? And I'm like, yeah, sure, what up? But we never hang out together. We never did anything together, to be honest, in high school. Now that we are older, we have so much in common that we don't understand why in high school we weren't really best friends. Because both of us, when she has a problem or I have a problem, I call her. And sometimes she's at work and she calls me or texts me like, hey, I'm at work, I can't talk right now. Or like, send me a voice, I'll talk, I'll listen to it and we'll talk later. It's weird because, again, we weren't friends in high school or like in school. We knew each other, we talked, But that was it. Now that I guess, that when we're in high school, it's like, oh, they have like different types of groups. The popular kids, the nerds, the outcasts, this type of group. So she was more of the popular kids, and I wasn't like in all of the groups because again, I talked to everybody. So it was like I was in the nerds, I was in the slow and the popular, like I knew people in the popular group. But again, I always had this type of group, my group of friends, that I honestly wouldn't know what type of group were we, because we weren't popular and we weren't nerds as well. But what I'm trying to say is like we weren't really a group of like you can stereotype. Of course, I understand that sometimes you need someone to talk to, but you can always have new friends. Obviously, meanwhile we get older, we go to different experience that when we talk to somebody, we then start to say like, oh, I can understand you, or I can relate because of this and that. And of course, you want a friend that can relate to your problems. And there's some friends that won't relate to your problems because they haven't gone through that. And there's other people that go through it, and that's when you start to create a bond. And I understand that sometimes, we need people that can understand us and someone that we can talk to, but it doesn't mean that that person is going to be there for the rest of your life. You're going to make new friends either because you join a class or you have a new hobby or you're doing new things, that with those new things that you're doing, you're going to have a new group of friends. And of course, it's not that you're going to forget about your old friends. It's just more about the changes that you do in your life. That's what I'm trying to talk about. How us as children, we have different friends because either we haven't really gone through things or we haven't learned from our experiences. So that's why when we start to get older, our friends tend to change, or you have either like a smaller group of friends. Sometimes the walk of life is just different for you and your friends. You can be stuck waiting for them. You need to move on as well. And up next, I'll be talking about the friends that I've met in college and the ones that have become part of my group of friends.
The GSMC Sex Podcast is a show that examines all aspects of sexuality, from physical to emotional to spiritual. Join our hosts as they discuss age-old questions, common misconceptions, and the latest topics surrounding sex. They'll tackle topics about sexuality from the complicated to the hilarious and everything in between. GSMC Sex Podcast is your show for all of your questions about sex, even some you might not have thought of yet. Download the GSMC Sex Podcast on iTunes, Stitcher, SoundCloud, Google Play, or anywhere you can find podcasts. Just type GSMC in the search bar.
Welcome back. So I've been talking about friendship and how my high school or like school experience was with my friends and the friends that I have now and the current ones and the ones that I had and the current ones as well. Now I'm going to be talking about my college friends. When I went to college, I was in a different college than all of my friends from high school. And obviously, when you're a freshman, the administration is the one who picks the class for you. At least in Puerto Rico, that's how it is. And I didn't have any classes with people that I knew, so it was hard at first, you're like going to class every day, or like you start to meet people. And the professor, in one of my classes, I was in a really hard math class, and it was at 7:30 a.m. So math at 7:30 a.m. Just think about that one. First year of college, and it was in math. I really don't like math. But anyways, it was with a really hard professor. Looked information from the professors. People said that it was the worst professor in the university. And of course, I had him. And it was funny because in his class, he had like a final project that he put people together. And this is the first day of the first day. That's what he said. Like, okay, so you guys have a final project. You guys need to pick your groups. And if obviously you're freshmen, you don't know nobody. So I'm going to pick the groups for you. That's how he said it. Like, this was a couple of years ago, but I remember this professor traumatized me. Okay. Anyway, that's not the point. The point is that he put us in the group together. So the first day we met each other, and we started to create a bond and a friendship because we were feeling the exact same thing towards the professor, especially when you're trying to get a good grade and not try to flunk this class. I remember that we, it was the first semester, and I have these people and becoming friends with them. But I can say that when the project finished, when the semester finished, it was more of an acquaintance type of situation, not a friendship, because once the class was over, I never talked to them again. I obviously saw them and I say hi to them, being polite to them, but that was it. For one of my concentration classes, I made friends because we saw each other in all of the concentration classes, and that was my first year of college. Then the second year, the friends that I made in my concentration classes, then we had even more classes together because it was sophomore year, and sophomore year you can pick your own classes. And of course, there's people that you've seen a lot around the campus and in the department, so it's easier to pick the classes with the people that you know. I had a little group that was one of my high school friends and other people that we met in our concentration classes. When we weren't in class together, we were studying together, and I had a couple of friends outside of that group of friends that either I met in the library or in other of my not concentration classes, the basic classes. And I always met with them in the cafeteria. We had lunch together. And of course, we had a couple of classes together as well. The college that I was in, it was little. It wasn't like a really big campus. So you were going to see a lot of people in the same classes, and if you became friends, it's like, hey, take this class with me, let's do this, hey, are you good at that? And that's how you start to create or like to get to know people in college. So because in the college that I was in, it was small, but it was expensive, and I had to make the hard decision to transfer to the state school, and there's where my high school friends were. Unfortunately, the friends that I've made in my first 2 years of college, I lost touch with them. I see them in my social media, or if I am hanging out in Puerto Rico, I see them, I say hi to them, and we talk a little bit, like a small talk, like, hey, how are you? How's everything? Did you graduate? What are you doing? Those type of little questions and little things. There are some relationships that are just there to show you something, and they're not gonna be in your life forever. And I think that was my friends from my first college. That's what they were there for, to like help me go through my first 2 years of college. They are really, if I see them or if they want to hang out with me, I wouldn't have any problem at all. But I do know that time has changed. So I don't think I will have the exact same interests as we had when we were in our first year of college. Anyway, so when I transferred universities, then I had my high school friends and we reconnected again. We weren't in the same majors, so we didn't have classes together, but every lunchtime we saw each other or we waited for each other. So when they finished class or I finished class, we hang out, we went to the campus street and just be there, hanging out, meeting new people, or meeting up with other friends. If we didn't have to study, obviously, I made new friends in this university, and in my third year of college, I had my first job, and a couple of people that I work with studied in the same college and were in the same major. So every time we saw each other, we talked and we created a bond. I created a bond with one of my best friends right now. She worked with me. I met her at work. Plus, we saw each other a lot because we had the same free time in our college schedule. And even though I'm in Florida, I talk to her almost every day. But right now, we both graduated and we both have jobs. So we haven't really been in touch in this past month. Of course, I write to her and she answers me a day later, or in social media, I'll put something in my story and she'll answer me and I'll tell her like, hey, I texted you, like, why didn't you answer? That's our type of relationship right now. Anyways, that's what we've done. And one of my, the friend that I said, my best friend from high school, she was in the same college. When I transferred, she was in the same college. And being 2 years apart, I can say that we both changed a lot, especially her. She was going out more. She was getting out of her shell. And me, I was already hanging out with other people. So if I invited her to something, she's like, oh, I can't because I'm hanging out with this people, or, oh, hey, you know what? We'll do it next time. So I can say that that's why she's my best friend from high school, because once I was in the college that she was, I saw and she saw that we both, had different interests. And I have every time, again, as I said, every time that I see her or every time that she posts something, accomplishment in her social media, we always try to catch up real quick. And because again, she's doing her thing, I'm doing mine. That's the type of friendship that I love to have, because even though we don't talk every day, we still have that trust and that confidence. And it's like literally you see us somewhere together and it's like we didn't even lost touch. It's more like, oh, they've known each other for their lives, because we're always like making fun of each other and trying, and always talking and doing our inner jokes. And it's just, that's the type of relationship that I have with them. There's 3 friends that of course, I met a lot of people in college, and I can say that there's 3 of them that I met in college and that I always keep in touch with them, even though we're in separate states and countries. And the first one, as I said, it's my best friend that worked with me. Her and we both worked at the same place, and once I quit my first job, I did not lose any touch with her, because again, we were in college and we had the same schedule. And I always like, hey, are you free? Do you want to go out for lunch? Or hey, they're doing this at this place. Do you want to come? Do you want to do this? Do you want to do that? And we really never lost touch. And even though, again, as I said, even though I'm in Florida, we still talk. And every time I go to Puerto Rico, she's the one that either picks me up from the airport or the first one to see. Because let's say I arrive at Puerto Rico, I don't know, like at 5:30 in the afternoon, and she's working. She will literally go out of work. Not go out of work, but once she finished work, she will go to my house and we talk a little bit, blah, blah, have a little hangout together, or she will wait till the next day and we will go to the beach, and do something. I remember that the last time I went to Puerto Rico, it was really, she was coming back from Spain and I was visiting Puerto Rico and she was really tired. And I remember that even though she was jet lagged, she went and saw me and she was like, I am sleepy, but I missed you so much, blah, blah, blah. And that's the way that we've been keeping touch a lot. She obviously has been there for me. Even though we've met each other or that friendship has been, I can say like less than 5 years, we've been friends and we have had so much things in common that it's not even funny. The other best friend that I have is one of my guy best friends. I met him in college and it was just hilarious because him and we have so much in common that it's not even funny. I remember that we both moved at the same time from Puerto Rico, but he moved to Boston and I moved here to Florida. And we try to keep in touch, but it's more through social media. But if I text him or call him, we will be literally like 5 hours on the phone trying to like update in everything. And it's funny because sometimes he texts me and tells me something and I answer him. He never answers back. So I'm like, okay, so why did you text me? Anyways, the last time I saw him, it was in January of last year. And it was because I went to New York for my birthday and he saw me. He literally he took a bus to New York to just see me and we spent the weekend together and it was just amazing because it's this type of friendship that I've made in college. But even though we haven't seen each other for a long time, it was like nothing happened. We were having fun, making jokes and making a fool of ourselves in New York. And I went to New York with one of my two best friends. So it was a really fun experience. Would I do it again? Of course I would. But I need more time to spend with my best friends, to be honest. And then I have this other friend that she moved to Spain to do her master's. And she's been in Spain. I can say that she's been in Spain like maybe 5 years or 6 years. I'm not really sure on the timeline. But her and we still talk. And even though she's in a different country, in the other part of the world, we still talk. And she knows a lot of my things. I know a lot of the things that are happening in her life right now. Of course, I miss her so much because she went to Puerto Rico, I guess in 2019. And unfortunately, I couldn't take off from work to see her. And of course, I want to do a trip to Spain and see her and hug her and just have her face to face, because she was one of the persons that I can say that even though we have different interests, she's the most person that understands me. And when I'm telling you, she is this type of girl, like hippie, and her and we do on certain things, we do crash a lot, but at the same time, we know how to respect each other's opinions, which it's all good. And of course, her and I can say that we have never had a discussion that bad that will stop the friendship. But with her, it's always, I can call her again. She's in Spain. In Spain, it's like 6 hours. It's a 6 hour difference than here in Florida. So if I call her at 12 a.m. from Florida, she is asleep because it's 6 a.m. She always answers the phone, but she's like, Gloriann, why are you waking me up? So I try to always call her like at 2. Or like at 12. So it's more like in the nighttime that she's good. And if she's not making any plans, because every time I call her, not every time, but most of the times when I call her, she tells me like, you always call at the wrong time. I'm going out, or hey, I got friends over. Hey, I'm doing this, I'm doing that. Again, her and we really do try to keep our friendship together. And honestly, she's in Spain, so I try to send her like memes and funny things, because if I send her a present, it's really expensive sending presents international. So, and I try to keep her friendship with her, just calling her, video chatting, and texting. With my best friends from Puerto Rico, what I do is I send them things, presents, so like in their birthday, either Christmas or special holidays. That's what I try to do, so they know that I'm thinking about them and I haven't forgotten them. And of course, there's a lot of college friends that unfortunately they have become acquaintances that were really special to me at one point, and we had a really good relationship, or we had a really beautiful friendship, but unfortunately we grew apart. And I have this one friend that I can say that she was really close to me when I was in college, but things happened and we grew apart. She's in a relationship. I moved to Florida and we really didn't keep in touch. It was both our faults, because she didn't look for me. I didn't look for her. She was doing her thing with her partner and I was doing my thing, trying to adjust to a new life. And birthdays and everything, we say happy birthday. It's just an acquaintance type of thing. In our lifetime, we meet wonderful people and some that are not that wonderful. Up next, I'll be talking about friendship that I've lost because we just grew apart.
Tired of searching the vast jungle of podcasts? Now listen close and hear this out. There's a podcast network that covers just about everything that you've been searching. The Golden State Media Concepts Podcast Network is here. Nothing less than a podcast bliss with endless hours of podcast coverage. From news, sports, music, fashion, cooking, entertainment, fantasy, football, and so much more. So stop lurking around and go straight out to the Golden State Media Concepts Podcast Network. Guaranteed to fill that podcast itch. Whatever it may be, visit us at www.gsmcpodcast.com. Follow us on Facebook and Twitter, and download us on iTunes, SoundCloud, and Google Play.
Welcome back. So, as you know, I've been talking about friendship and how my experiences with growing apart or staying in touch with my high school and my childhood friends or my college friends. And I think everybody can relate that as we get older, we learn new things, and because of our experience, we know what we want and we pick the people that we want in our lives. People take different paths, so you will have friends that will be in the same journey as you, or they will be in another. The years pass and you get to know your friends even more. You stay friends either because you share the same values or experiences, or because they understand you, or you just separate yourself from them because either they're doing things that you don't feel comfortable with or they're just toxic. I'm pretty sure that a lot of you, when you start to get older, you think to yourself, why do I have fewer friends? Or why is it hard to make friends now than when I was younger? When you're in elementary school or high school, you have a best friend because either you sat next to each other in the classroom, or you had the same interest, or you had the same class, or even like lived near each other. And of course, you saw each other every day. Years pass and you either have the same interests or you change. In college, everything changes. because you're making new friends, people that study the same major with you, have the similar interests than you. You take a class and you find a topic that is really interesting, or they change your whole perspective in something. And of course, some friends won't think the same as you because that's what makes us different. We all have our own opinion. And without noticing, you start to have your own group of friends, and your high school friends start to become acquaintances, or you just grow out of your friendship because you find new interests, or you guys simply change because you believe in different things and have different values or different opinions. When you start to get older, you start to improve yourself. You don't want to associate with some people, so you distance yourself, either because you want to be a business person and your friends are partying and always getting in trouble with the law, and you know that that's going to affect you in the future. The point is, you start to distance yourself when your interest doesn't align with your friends. Meanwhile, you're growing up, you're not that innocent kid anymore. You have more judgment, and when you meet new people, you either feel a vibe or you don't. That's why as well, a lot of your childhood friends start to become acquaintances because you start to be judgmental, and that's where there are things that you don't like, or they start to believe in other stuff that you're like, okay. In my experience, I have 2 of these childhood friends. I can say that I was friends with them because my parents were friends with their parents. So that's how we are friends. And I can say that if it wasn't because of social media, I would never get in touch with these people again, because my parents, I don't know, they distanced themselves for whatever reason. Work, they had different works, so they couldn't really work on their schedule, like meeting up or anything. So my parents tried to get in touch again with their parents, so they were hanging out again, and that's when I saw them again, and I have them in social media. I can say that they were pretty normal until maybe 2 years ago or 3, that my friends, like their youngest daughter, started to like post things that obviously I didn't believe in. So my friendship with them really wasn't the same. Of course, I respect their beliefs, or I respect like her beliefs, but her sister, that I was the one who got really most along with, started being like her. And I'm like, oh, okay. Yeah, no. But we don't really hang out. I don't really tell them like, hey, let's do something. And they don't tell me, hey, let's do this, because we know that we have different beliefs. We have different things in common now. And it's more of, and you start to see, or like I started to see, like, yeah, we've been growing apart. And again, when I said, like, once you enter to college, you start to believe new things because you start hanging out with other people. That's what happened with her. She went into college. She started to hang out with other people. Her experiences were totally different than mine. So, of course, she has other beliefs and she has other opinions, which, again, I respect that completely. Her sister, on the other hand, believes in some things, believe in other things, and we still talk, but it's more like a, hey, how's everything? How's your parents? Okay, whatever, say hi for them, or like say hi, and that's it. That's pretty much it. Even though we had a really good friendship when we were kids, you start to notice, or we noticed that we had a good friendship because our parents had good friendships. Another friend that is my childhood friend, she was my neighbor, and we had a lot of things in common. And once we hang out almost every Friday, like every weekend, because I didn't have school, she didn't have school, we did our homework, so we hang out every weekend. And of course, we were little. Her and her parents moved to another place, so once they moved, it wasn't really the same, so we lost touch. We really weren't talking anymore, and we had each other in social media, but it wasn't really the same. And her grandmother lived where I lived, so I saw her like maybe once in 3 months. So that's when we really started growing apart. Both of us were young, first of all, and secondly, I didn't knew how to keep in touch with somebody at that time and moment. And I remember that I saw her in freshman week from college. And when I saw her, I was so happy. I'm like, oh my God, how are you? How's everything? Blah, blah. We did like a really small talk because, again, we grew apart so different. And she was more into books. She was more into staying home, being a couch potato. And I was more, at that time, I was more like hanging out, being with my friends, doing this, doing that, not being at home that much. And that's when I knew that it's like, okay, we were just friends because we were neighbors. Two of my other friends from high school, this are not from childhood, they're from high school. Two of them, I can say that I grew apart. The first one is one of the guys that was really close, that we were really good friends. And once he got a partner, he got his girlfriend, we started to grow apart. Or like his girlfriend started to like be in the middle, not in the middle, because it wasn't really like every time I called him, she got mad because why is Gloriann calling you, blah, blah. And there wasn't nothing there, to be honest. But she tried everything just, I guess, because of her insecurities for us to not be friends anymore. So I was the one who said to him, like, hey, yeah, I don't like this drama, so I think we need to stop talking for a little while so she understands that I'm not really interested in you and you're not interested in me. Anyways, the point is that little, like, let's not talk for a little while become in 2 years. So again, I haven't seen this person, and I do know something like about him because we do have mutual friends in common. So my friends tell me, oh no, he's good, they're still together, or no, yeah, they're moving in together, blah blah. And I'm happy for him, even though we don't talk anymore. He must know that he was a really important person in my life. He was one of these friends that I loved having around because he always told the truth and always was giving me tough love. It wasn't like, no, you're gonna make it. Oh, no, don't worry. Everything's gonna be okay. No, he will literally say like, well, this happened because you did this, and this. You need to now resolve it. Either you do this or you do that. That's the type of friends that I like to have around. And him, I can say that it was one of the best. But unfortunately, things happen. And again, as he says, things happen and we need to just deal with it and either do one thing or do another. One of my other high school friends, her and I, we just grew apart because we were in different colleges, we were in different majors, our schedule did not align at all. We just stopped talking. When I texted her, she didn't answer. Obviously, me reaching out to a person that is really not gonna answer me, I prefer to just leave it like that and just lose that friendship. Because having a friend is a two-way street. Get along. You both need to communicate. You both need to text each other, call each other. Don't wait for the other person to do it, because that's not how friendship works or any type of relationship. It's not a one-way street. It's a two-way street. Thank you. And then one friend that I can say that we grew apart completely, it was when I moved here to Florida. I met her here. She's been living in Florida for all her life. And I met her in my first job when I moved to Florida, we met in that job, and she was really quiet. She was a really calm person. She never hang out. She never did a lot of the things. But once she turned 21, she changed completely. The group of friends that she was hanging out were not people that I would hang out. And I guess she thought that I was being judgmental when I really wasn't being judgmental. I was just thinking about my future. And of course, if I hang out and these people are doing things that are not really supposed to be doing, I'm sorry, but I'm not gonna be hanging out with you. Let's hang out when you're not hanging out with them. And I told her, like, I don't mind hanging out with you, but if you're gonna hang out at this place or are we gonna see these people, like, I'm sorry, I'm not gonna hang out. I prefer to stay home. So I guess she thought that I was being judgmental and being judgy. And hey, if I was, I'm sorry, but you have to understand that some people are gonna be like you and some other people are not gonna be like you. And I met this person in a time in her life that maybe she just had to show me an experience that not everybody that I meet is gonna become my friend, or not everybody that I meet is gonna be there. This person, like this friend, I always, we traveled together. We're really good friends. And then out of nowhere, bam, no more. Like, we didn't have any other conversation. I told her, like, hey, you want to hang out? You want to do this? She didn't want to anymore. And I guess it was a both way. Like, in some sort of way, it was both our fault, because I guess I was being judgy, or like she thought that I was being judgmental with the people that she was hanging out and the things that she was doing, which I really wasn't. I was just worried about me and my future. And if I don't want to hang out with somebody that is doing things that I'm not comfortable with, you can't really obligate me to go. And I guess she didn't understand that. And that's fine. That's good. But again, not saying anything, not talking to me out of nowhere without any explanation, that was kind of low. And of course, I texted her saying like, hey, I hope you're doing well. If you want to hang out one of these days, just text me or call me. I'm free this and this day. If you have any free days, tell me so I can move my schedule and we can hang out. Because again, this person was really important in my life, but I guess she didn't really care. And that's good and that's fine. She's finding her own journey. She's doing her own thing and I'm doing mine. And that's totally fine. That happens a lot. Some people, once they start to create a new life for them, it all changes. It's good. Of course, if you want your friendship to last, you need to be flexible with your friends. The fact is that you're going to grow over time and have different interests, and when your friends finds a partner, you need to understand your friendship will change because they're going to spend time with them. They prefer to spend time with them instead of you. Of course, they're gonna try to put you in the same schedule, like you being a third wheel, which that's not the point, but anyway. Which that's something that I think everybody has been the third wheel in a relationship. With your friends, is like, oh yeah, hey, let's do this. Oh, can I invite this one? Or hey, can I invite her? And I'm like, yeah, of course, no problem. Invite them. Anyways, and of course, once you get older, people start to get married, start to having kids, and that's going to be another thing that affects your friendship as well, because they have a new life. They're starting to be more. They have their priorities. Their priorities obviously change. They don't have time to be hanging out all the time because they're married or they have kids. And another thing, you need to keep communication with your friends. You can't wait for them to text you or call you all the time. They have things to do as well as you need to do things. And if you live in another state or country, it's important to be there for them and communicate as best as possible, and even try to make time in your schedule to talk to them at least 10 minutes, or like send them a text like, hey, hope you're doing well. I'm doing good. Hope to talk to you soon. When can you talk? Remember that you and your friends are going through different changes in your life. You may be in the same book, but you're in a different chapter. You don't go through the same path. Maybe they have a newborn and they can't really be texting or calling you that much because, again, they're taking care of their baby. Or you have a new job and it takes you a lot of time. That's why you need to be patient with them and them with you. If you really can't hang out with your friend that has a kid, then you have a problem because you're stuck with this kid. And if they're your best friends, you're gonna become the godmother maybe of this child. So you better be hanging out with them. Anyway, the point is, like, if you really want to spend time with your friends, you try to make the time. And if you can't, just because it's a difficult month or a difficult time, hey, take a personal day. I know this is not as easy as saying it, but try to take a personal day and try to make a plan with your friends. Like, hey, in 2 weeks, I'll be off. Like, let's hang out. I'm going to go to your house. I like talk, update each other. And again, if you want to see somebody, you just see them, to be honest. Because, of course, friends provide support and a different perspective in your life. That's why it's important to have them. Any relationship is hard to maintain, but you just always need to remember that your friends are always going to be there for you and you're going to be there for them. And if you really are a true friend, you're always gonna try to make time. You're always gonna make time because you don't have to see each other face to face. You can call them, video chat. Right now, technology, you can do whatever. You're either your partner, your friends, your family members. And of course, with that, up next, I'll be doing a recap of today's episode and how the pandemic is making me miss my friends and my family even more. Even though we have technology, it's not the same.
Are you tired of the same old news? Are you sick of the seemingly endless political spin and negativity? The GSMC America Still Beautiful podcast is a weekly news podcast covering all the top positive and uplifting news stories. We cover stories that will inspire, uplift, and remind you of the good in the world. Tune into the Golden State Media Concepts America Still Beautiful podcast to get all the great and positive news stories of today. Download the GSMC America Still Beautiful podcast on iTunes, Stitcher, SoundCloud, Google Play, or anywhere you find podcasts. Just type GSMC.
Alrighty, welcome back. Let's do a little recap of today's episode. First, I need to say that we are not the innocent kid from kindergarten anymore. Our experiences has made us more cautious about trusting people. You need to be careful with the people that you have around your life, with your partner, friendships, and even your family, because sometimes they can be toxic and you don't want that in your life. As I said earlier, we grow apart from our friendships from childhood because we see that we are not the same. Our interests have changed completely. And because we saw each other almost every day, either in school or in the neighborhood, that it was just that because you were friends. Meanwhile, we get older, our interest changes, and we don't have the same things in common anymore with our friends. It is a normal thing. It happens to everybody. Of course, I've had friends that I know since high school, well, since elementary school, and two of them are my best friends, but it's because we understand each other and I can see that we have been in the same path for a little while. Plus, they understand me and I understand them. There's a lot of things that happen in our lives that we have in common. We've been there, or like I've been there in difficult times. Plus, in my group, there's been people that have been there through thick and thin. Others, even though they are not in my life anymore because of different values and beliefs, that they have become acquaintances. Of course, it's sad because you tend to say everything to this person and now they don't know nothing about you or what's happening in your life. You see it on social media, but it's not really the same. The friendships that you have made in your job or in college, in your college experience, last even more because in college, you know now as an adult what's right from wrong and you trust your gut feelings. So when you meet somebody either in a class or walking through the campus and something happened, or you meet them through a friend, you start talking and you obviously see that you guys either have things in common or you just don't. For me, it's always a vibe. Every time that I meet somebody, it's like, okay, they're giving me a good vibe or they're giving me a weird vibe. Again, that's my gut feeling telling me, okay, this person is a good person or this person is something weird about them. As an adult, we tend to be judgmental. And of course, that is not the best thing to have, but you need to be observative and you need to be a good judge of character. That's what I mean when I say that we need to be judgmental, because again, you have to trust your gut feeling. It happens in everyone's life. You start to change and everything around you changes. Your friend that you had in second grade can still be in your life or not. It happens. Unfortunately, the how we're raised, it changes completely as well. We could have passed through a traumatizing event and we lash out, or we have depression or distress. There's different things on why your friend changes or why you change as well. And you just having a friend, you need somebody to understand you. Of course, you always have to respect everybody's opinion, especially your friends. We are not the same. That's what makes us unique. I know that sounds really cliche, but it's true. Friendship can be a challenge, but remember to have people you need close to you that can support you and tell you when you are wrong, because that's another thing. There's some friendships that they're just being friends with you because of convenience, basically. So you need to be really careful, because let's say that once you start being successful or things are starting to align for you and your friends start to get jealous, that's not a real friend. That's the person that you just really need to distance yourself, because again, friends are there to support you and to be there in thick and thin, and just like you have to be there for them. If you just need to be flexible with your friends and be patient, because again, we're not in the same, as I said, we're in the same book, but we're just not in the same chapter as our friends. Sometimes we are, and that's super good, but then otherwise they're not. Either they're too far, maybe they're in the first chapter and you're in the 5th chapter. Maybe they're finishing the book and you're still in the first page. It happens. It's nothing to be concerned about. Not everybody's the same, as I said. And of course, talking about friendship, I can say that I miss mine a lot. And I haven't traveled to Puerto Rico maybe in a year and a half. And due to COVID, obviously, nothing else. I haven't seen my friends. I haven't seen my family. And the fact of being apart so long from them, I don't like it. Well, I know that nobody's gonna like being apart from their friends or family. The point is that in my family, I'm really close. I'm really close to my aunt and my grandfather. Of course, due to COVID, my aunt doesn't even let me travel, because I think I've talked about this before, but I have really bad luck. And every time there's a virus that comes, like the A1H1, the flu, and other viruses, like in Puerto Rico, they had a virus that it was called the chikungunya, and I can say that was the worst one. Anyway, going to the point, of course, she doesn't want me to travel, because if I get the virus, I can give it to my grandparents. And they're really high risk. Of course, I don't want that, because if knowing the virus, we know that a lot of people unfortunately have lost their lives, and it's not it's better to be safe than sorry. Now, of course, with the vaccine, they got vaccinated. So I was really happy because with their vaccine, I'm like, okay, so they're not really like, if I go there, I really don't expose them that much. And I was talking to my aunt, and I was telling her like, oh, so now I can see grandma and grandpa, like they took their vaccine, and I'm gonna start looking for flights. Psych, she quickly said no. She literally said, you need to have it as well. You need to be vaccinated as well. You need to show me the proof that you were vaccinated. You still can get sick, and I don't have it, nor your mother has it. So don't think about it that much. And of course, I was heartbroken because, again, I haven't seen my family in 1.5 years. And I'll be honest, I haven't been apart that long from my family. I've lived with them 20-something years. And my grandparents are really special and really important in my life. And I can understand that is to protect everybody and myself. But I just need to hug them and see them and joke around and, hang out with them for a little while, even party with my friends. The fact that I haven't taken a break from all the stress that I have in my life right now during COVID is driving me crazy. And I'm pretty sure a lot of you understand me, because it's not the same being at home or going from your house to work to your house, not seeing friends, not being sociable, not doing anything because you just want to be safe. And of course, I understand that a lot of people do not care anymore. They're acting like the virus disappeared. And hey, that's okay. You guys are not that scared as I am. So that's good. Perfect. I can be a scary cat sometimes. That's not the point. The fact that I haven't taken a break, of course, it has ruined me. And a lot of us are feeling the exact same. We want to hug our family members and be back to normal. But due to the pandemic, a lot of us haven't even celebrate our birthdays or celebrate any special occasions. Like if people that had a baby, you guys really couldn't have a baby shower. I remember that in the beginning of COVID, my cousin, his wife was pregnant, and it was literally starting COVID, and we were supposed to visit them to have the baby shower and blah blah. So they had a virtual baby shower. It was cool and all, but it wasn't the same, playing the games and playing and being there and just having fun with everybody, with the family. And, it's part of it. Anyways, I couldn't celebrate my graduation. I graduated in December of last year, and my family couldn't travel. I couldn't go to Puerto Rico because, again, we were trying to be safe, or we're trying to be safe. I have missed birthdays, especially the ones from my younger brother, and I can say that I miss him the most because we were really close, and due to different things that have happened in the family, we have grown apart a little bit. Of course, he's a teenager now, so that doesn't make it any easier either. Anyway, it's all about patience, and I know that a lot of people are feeling the same. Of course, I get mad when I'm seeing friends and they're traveling and not being cautious. Especially my best friend, he traveled back and forth to see his girlfriend and then going back to his house. And I'm like, dude, your parents are high risk. Why are you doing this? And he's like, no, don't worry. Obviously he was taking precautions, and the fact he came into the, he spent time in visiting his girlfriend. And of course, they went out and they did things. And when he came back to Puerto Rico to his parents' house, he literally was 2 weeks in his room, and his brother had to use the downstairs bathroom and he used the upstairs bathroom. So he was being cautious, but at the same time his parents were really pissed off because he was putting himself in risk. But anyways, things happen, and that's what it is. Of course, I want to travel so bad. Trust me, I've seen the flights many times, and I'm like, do I book it? Do I not book it? But whatever, again, it is what it is. This is a weird time for everybody, and in every aspect of our lives. Work, personal and social. That's why we always need to be nice to people. Nice but not taken advantage of. Anyway, going back, with technology, I've been able to be in contact with my family and my friends. I try to see my grandparents almost every week in video chatting. And my friends, since they're my age and everything, we talk a little bit here and there. We send text messages, we send memes. But when we're off the same day, we do video chat and update ourselves in everything we've done. We can be literally like 3 hours just talking. And obviously I felt that I'm in a long distance relationship with my family and friends. In the pandemic as well, I've noticed that I have distanced myself from other people. And I guess the stress and being apart from them has caught up with me. I can say that I am a little bit depressed because in this year, there's been so much big changes and changes that I didn't expect or that nobody has expected. And it's something that I would like to control, but I can't. So I guess that's why it has been hard for me. At the same time, I've noticed that there's a lot of people that really have changed. I don't know if it's because of the virus and they're stuck in their house and really don't know what else to do, but they have changed. So I've distanced myself. And I can say that that's it for today. I hope that you enjoyed today's podcast, and remember to be patient and to keep the toxicity away from your life, and of course to stay safe. Thank you for listening to the GSMC Relationship Podcast, brought to you by the GSMC Podcast Network. I would like to ask you to please remember to subscribe to the show and write a nice review. That really helps us. Also, if you can please follow us on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. Thank you.
You've been listening to the Golden State Media Concepts Relationship Podcast, part of the Golden State Media Concepts Podcast Network. You can find this show and others like it at www.gsmcpodcast.com. Download our podcast on iTunes, Stitcher, SoundCloud, and Google Play. Just type in GSMC to find all the shows from the Golden State Media Concepts Podcast Network. From movies to music, from sports to entertainment, and even weird news. You can also follow us on Twitter and on Facebook. Thank you, and we hope you have enjoyed today's program.